This unit plan addresses the standards for the ratio and proportions unit. It starts out with just a basic introduction to ratios. It goes on to include the equivalent ratios, the unit rates, and measurement conversions. Today we're actually going to start talking about a new topic, but I'm not going to tell you what that topic is just yet. I want you to try to figure it out first. So on your table, you will see that there are bags containing plastic shapes. They're shapes that you may be familiar with. What I want you to do with them is to answer the following questions after you count them. So you're going to count the number of shapes in the bag, and you are going to answer the following questions. How can you compare the types of shapes in your bag? Are there other ways to compare the types of shapes in your bag? And how would you write these comparisons? So I was walking around, I noticed there were a lot of good answers, and one of the answers I saw that I would like to hear said out loud is rayons. So Rayon, can you tell me how you compared the types of shapes in your bag?
Well, me and Justin used a ratio.
Cool. And what was the ratio you used?
Well, we compared rhombuses to hexagons.
We delved deeper into what ratios were, how to work with ratios, with the equivalent ratios, using multiplying, dividing, and scaling to find those equivalent ratios. Once they had that knowledge, we went ahead and did a mini EDP project so that they could get exposed to the design process before beginning their larger project, which was the endcap design. So we just talked about how to divide to find an equivalent ratio and how to multiply to find an equivalent ratio. The next thing we need to talk about is how to put those two things together when there are ratios that aren't easily divisible or easily multiplied to get that equivalent ratio. And how we do that is through scaling. Okay? We use scaling to find the equivalent ratio. You can write that word in your notebook. That would be great. Okay. And in this example, we have Thomas edits videos to earn extra money. He edited 8 videos in 14 hours last weekend. How many videos could he edit in 49 hours if he works at this same place? So if I multiply the 7 by a 7, I also have to multiply the 4 by the same number. So Sam, can you tell me how you solved this problem?
So I knew that 5 and 25 are both divisible by 5 because you don't know how to multiply from 25 to 5 because 55 is not possible. So I divided them both by 5 and I got 2 and 5.
For the mini EDP, we built models using spaghetti and marshmallows, and they were given a limited amount of supplies for the spaghetti and the marshmallows. They were given a time limit for the planning and a time limit for their implementation of it. And it's something that we've had modeled for us by our administration, and something we kind of built the foundation of Coleman on from day one, is having the students be creative, having them plan and design and implement something and redesign it and try it again. And it's not necessarily super focused on a particular math skill, but it's more focused on getting them to understand working in groups, how to share ideas, how to come to a consensus on which idea is the best idea, which are skills they need for future projects that do involve the math skills. At the center of your table, you'll see some paper, and that's where you're going to start the engineering design process by creating a sketch of what you think you would like to build with the marshmallows and spaghetti, keeping in mind that it needs to support this apple. The engineering design process is something we use here, and it allows us to teach the students that it's okay to make mistakes, because built into that process is an opportunity for feedback and for redesign. So a lot of our students come to us wanting things to be perfect. They do it once, it's perfect, they get the great grade on it, and they think they're done. And we use that engineering design process of coming up with a plan, creating the prototype, getting feedback on that prototype, making revisions, and then trying it again. It's more of a circular process for us. So this afternoon, we're going to start our class with our Engage activity. And you're going to write this problem in your notebook and solve it. The problem says that Gabby is creating a product display at the local hardware store. The display contains a combination of gallon paint cans and quart paint cans. The ratio of gallon cans to quart cans is 2 to 3. If she has 24 quart cans, how many gallon cans will she need to complete the display? Remember, this is a lot like our equivalent ratios that we worked on before. Yes,
I received a letter from the front office.
Oh, wow. Oh, it's from Paris.
It's from Paris.
Oh, my goodness. That's where I went this summer. Simulations are really important in my classroom. I want the students to be engaged. I do a lot of fun things. I'm not above dressing in costume or talking in a really funny voice or being super energetic for something really fun, even though it's just a really mundane math problem. For the simulations, just making it engaging and fun and memorable. So guys, do you think we should open it now? I mean, I'm not sure. This came to school and it's from Paris. You think we should open it?
Yes.
Okay, well, let me see what's in here. It sure is a thick envelope. Well, ooh. It's got a lot of paper in here, but it's got this really fancy letter. And it looks like it has some French words on there too. I wonder if I can remember my French. Okay, let's see. It says, "Dear Coleman Middle students." Man, I was hoping this letter was from that guy I met in Paris, but it's written to you. It's all about you. Well, let's see what happens. Okay, officials from our company noticed your recent Twitter post about your PBL project. Wow. We were impressed by your knowledge of tiny houses and the building materials needed to build them. Our company is in the process of reorganizing our stores and would like to create an endcap display of products that a person might purchase to build a tiny home. Wow, they figured out you guys were pretty smart. They must have seen some of our tweets or something from our tiny house project. We would like your help in designing this display, so they want your help. Endcap design proposal project. The students had to create a draft of their proposal. They had to create sketches of their proposal, which was sort of their planning phase. And then they had a gallery walk that they were able to get feedback on their endcap proposal. But they use that feedback then to revise their proposal before they have a finished product. Okay, so one last thing I'd like for us to do before we send our letters off is we need to edit our letters. We need to take a look at what we've done so far and give some feedback so that our classmates can make edits. And we're going to do that today with a gallery walk. Okay, we're going to use two different colors of Post-it notes. One is going to represent I wonder. So if you're reading their endcap design proposal and you're like, well, I wonder if you considered using a different tiny house product. The other Post-it note will be a feedback statement, something positive, like, I like the way you used a different font for your heading, or I like the way you organized the paragraphs in the letter. Here at Coleman, we use the engineering design process a lot, and that relies on students receiving feedback from adults and from other students. And the gallery walk allows us to give students the opportunity to give feedback to each other in a way that's helpful without being critical, because sometimes sixth grade students need that refinement of being able to give feedback without being too negative and without hurting someone else's feelings. So we used the Post-it notes where they did an I wonder and an I like. So they're giving some positive feedback with the I like, and they're giving some suggestions in an I wonder kind of way without being like, oh, you need to change this. It's a softer approach. So I wonder what would happen if you did this, or I wonder if you could rephrase this in a different way. So the students would come up and leave the Post-it notes in silence, because as you're doing the gallery walk, you don't want other people's thoughts to kind of cloud your thoughts. So when the students are giving the feedback, they go up in silence with their Post-it notes. They write down what their thoughts are about what they're reviewing. Okay, so you guys have made tremendous progress on your proposals, but we have a deadline to meet. So you need to make sure today that you wrap up your letters, get them ready to send back to Mr. Gaston, and make sure you've included all the details that he requested in his letter. Sometimes success in math is not necessarily defined by answering a math problem correctly. Sometimes it's that child who's been really, really quiet, and that child spoke up that day because of an activity that we did. They became engaged in working with their group, or they got bold enough and brave enough to finally say a comment about their group's project that perhaps they had been kind of holding back and didn't say. So sometimes success is social skills or communication skills. And other times, the success really is the math. But just knowing that my students have learned something, that they've walked out of my room at the end of the day knowing more than what they came in with.